Hi, welcome back to my channel and my review for Se7en. So this was directed by David Fincher and came out in 1995. This, of course, is the 30th anniversary of the movie. So just the other night, there was a cinema near me doing a one-off showing for this anniversary. So me and my brother went out to see this for the first time on the big screen, which was just absolutely incredible because this film is an absolute masterpiece. It's been one of my favourite movies all of my life. God knows how many times I've seen this movie, but just to see it fully restored on the big screen with all of the sound properly cleaned up and everything, I came out just absolutely wowed by the movie. I would have been jealous to have gone and seen this for the first time, like to not know anything about the story going in and seeing it in this condition. It'd just be an incredible experience. What a film! So, yeah, I decided to get my thoughts out and review it. David Fincher, I probably would say, is actually my favourite director. When you look at his filmography over the years, he has made some absolutely astounding films, and Se7en being one of the best of them. And it's really interesting about Se7en because for a lot of people, this would probably be what you consider his first proper film, just given that the only movie he'd done before this was Alien 3. I haven't ever reviewed the film on the channel. I really should at some point, but I have talked about it a little bit on my Alien ranking. But this was the first film where he didn't have all of the studio interference, where he's disowned the project really of Alien 3 to some extent. He hates the film. So this was him, working with his vision, his direction, him choosing exactly all of the creative choices he wanted to put in there in order to create this movie. And what we see is that he is easily one of the best directors working today and ever, in my opinions. So the plot of this film, for anybody who doesn't know, this is following these two detectives in this very rundown, broken, grimy city, and they get put onto a case trying to catch this serial killer who is killing based off of the 7 deadly sins. He's killing once a day, and these detectives have to basically piece together the puzzle of these murders to try and catch him before he completes this killing spree. So this is definitely one of the most intriguing and intense serial killer stories out there. And as I said before, wishing I could see this again for the first time, because going through just the atmosphere that David Fincher managed to build and creating that whole sense of dread around this situation where things are not going to end well, but you're just not sure how this whole thing is going to play out. And I just think it's so masterfully done that you're pulled into every single scene with these characters, and you just really want to get to the bottom of this story as things get slowly darker and more twisted. And I do think, though, even re-watching this film for me now must be at least the 20th time. I love the amount of detail in every single sequence, the pieces of the puzzle they're putting together in order to solve this case, but also all of the dialogue between the characters, the kind of obsession they start to have with this case, and the kind of mental toll that it takes on the two of them as they're working through this case. And it really is that attention to detail which is one of the things that makes this film so incredible. It feels real, you're pulled in and absolutely gripped by the story for its entire runtime, and I don't know many movies that can really pull you in the way that Se7en can. The atmosphere of this city is really perfectly captured, I think, here, with how dark and rainy everything is. In every single scene it's pouring with rain. You feel like no light has ever touched this city before. And I kind of love this effect as well, where you're following our main characters and in the background the other people of this city just feel like a blur. And that's definitely intentional, where everyone's got these long coats and hats and umbrellas, and you can't see anyone's faces, and they're just slowly trudging through their lives in this grim and depressing city. So it really kind of sets up early on the kind of dark place that this is. And I think it's also really well captured with the dynamic of these two detectives, where you've got the one, Somerset, of course, played by Morgan Freeman, who has lived in this place now for many years. He's been through a lot of cases and he knows what a disgusting place this is, to the point where he even says in the film, like, crimes happen here that I don't even understand anymore on any logical level because of how disturbing they are. And yeah, that you really do see it in his eyes when he's talking about this place that he needs for his own sanity to kind of get away from anything. And that's kind of balanced out, of course, with Brad Pitt playing the young rookie who's quite arrogant, he's very ambitious, he wants to be put onto these jobs and has kind of a naivety about him where he doesn't really know yet how dark some of these cases can get and doesn't know what he's going to have to go through and how grim some of these situations can get. So I really love the dynamic between the two of them and how they kind of bring out the best of each other as well, and how they kind of grow so close over the short period of time. That's definitely true of things of life. I think when you meet somebody and you go through something so intense together over such a short period of time, you really do grow close to them more quickly than you would just kind of going through the everyday trudge of life. And I think that's really nicely captured here. You do buy into their friendship and their relationship, especially when they have Somerset over to meet the family and everything. It just makes the whole thing feel far more real to me, and I love that. And obviously, you know, incredible performances as well. I think this was probably Brad Pitt's first like big front and centre role, if I'm not mistaken, before of course leading up to Fight Club. But yeah, even though this character could be considered more annoying, I think, if it was written on paper, just the way Brad Pitt plays him, there's just such a likability there, and you really do grow to love these characters. So yeah, just having these incredible actors in these roles just brings more gravitas to this already very well told story. And despite the fact that it is a very dark film, and some people probably wouldn't like to rewatch this because of the nature of it and how gnarly it gets in some spots, but I do think there's a really nice kind of sense of levity that's brought to some of these situations where the characters do have jokes between each other and there are some kind of more fun and lighter moments put in there. And it always feels authentic to me because, you know, in life, when people are going through dark situations, you do make jokes and stuff in order to kind of cope with the situation and make light of certain things. And again, I think that's captured really nicely here. It's not like every single scene is just dark and depressing and getting through it, and it ends up being one of those movies that you just can't face going back to experience. I definitely don't get that with Seven. It's definitely one of the darker movies that I'm happy to go back to again and again. I do think the reveal of Kevin Spacey as the serial killer when he first walks into the detective station is one of the best scenes in film history. And it's the fact that they're not even at the end of the case yet, and he just walks in openly covered in blood with his hands in the air, shouting up to the detectives in plain sight. And just that moment of just shock and confusion by everybody in the station as they bring this guy down. And you know this whole thing is not over. You know that they're being played, they're aware that they're being played, but they just don't understand yet how this is going to play out. They literally have the guy handcuffed in a room and they know that this thing is not yet over. And I just think that entire sequence is absolutely incredible. And the kind of reason they get for how he gets them back out onto the road for the final sequence as well. It's one of those scenes that I can just watch again and again because, as I say, of all of the details put in there and the tension, it's just so well done. And having that reveal early, it does feel like it is something that is not generic. You know, normally you'd have the scenes, it would all build up. The final scene, you get the reveal of the killer, and then it would play out in a final sequence. Where this, it surprises you where this happens so early on in the film, and I really do love that about this. And of course, you've got to talk about that final sequence where you have the three of them in a car together heading out into that almost sort of desert area with all of the transmission towers as they have this back and forth whilst these detectives kind of try and get to the bottom of this ideology that has let this guy with his fanaticism lead him to such brutal and disturbing killings. And I just love the dialogue in this scene, them kind of picking his brain and trying to make sense of all of it. And I love the way that Brad Pitt's character is kind of getting more and more agitated by this guy trying to justify himself until it all starts really kicking off at the end. And just the tension and the build-up of that scene is just expertly handled. And it really sort of brings the reality of the situation back at the end when John Doe, kind of makes the point, you're only here because I want you to be here. Because you do feel like they've got him, that they've captured this guy, but you just suddenly are brought back to this reality that no, he has the upper hand, he is the one leading them out because he wants them to be there. And it kind of brings that sense of dread right back in to the story again. It's an absolutely iconic sequence. And of course, leading up to that very bleak and disturbing ending of what's in the box when the delivery driver arrives with them with a package addressed to Brad Pitt's detective. And yeah, very disturbing sequence. And watching this again now, just seeing the reaction from Brad Pitt when he accepts the reality of this situation it's just horrifying to watch. I think, God, the performance in this sequence is just absolutely masterful, and you can see that in his eyes when he realises what's going on, and he knows in his heart that if he takes this guy out, that effectively John Doe has won, and this will all have been for nothing. Everybody that he wanted to be dead will be dead, and that will be the legacy of this case. And you can just tell the anger, the grief running through him, to the point where he just eventually says, fuck it, and puts a bullet through this guy's head because he can't help himself but do it, and just feels like, I don't care about the consequence of what happens, I'm going to do it. And just the way it goes from that to him looking out into the distance, kind of, and you see that sort of sense of emptiness within him, and you kind of really get how disturbed this guy is now, and he's not sure what he's done, he's just trying to kind of take everything in, and it's a lot. It really is a very powerful scene, and one that will stick with you for life. But if you can't tell already, you guys know that I absolutely love this movie to death. I really do think it's an absolute masterpiece. And I don't like to be one of those people that's like, oh, they don't make them like this anymore. Because, I go out and see a lot of modern movies. I give a lot of praise to films that still come out now. I love movies. But something about coming out of Se7en the other night and just feeling like, wow, that was truly incredible. Like, I loved every single minute of experiencing this film again. And, this would easily be, for me, in my top 10 films of all time. It really is something quite special. So, of course, I'm giving this one a 5 out of 5 rating. But guys, please do let me know down in the comments what you think of Se7en. And also let me know as well, what is your favourite David Fincher film. So thank you so much for watching. Really do appreciate that. Do take care, and I'll see you next time.